Paul.
Oh, yeah.
How are you?
Okay.
I'm good, Paul.
Good. Well, thank you for joining us. So, Paul, you've been a spiritualist since 1983, and you've been. I want you to share your story with us, but I do want to highlight one thing. Basically, your first real big public demonstration was back in 1990, and you had already had 7 years of intensive development under Gordon Higginson, who is quite possibly one of the most well-known, well-respected mediums to have probably, as we know in modern day, walked this planet, correct?
So it was one of the finest mediums really of the last 100 years. And he had every gift of mediumship, from the clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, healing, trance, and probably the last of the great physical mediums in
I love that.
I was fortunate to witness.
Well, I really love that because, you know, being able to train with somebody that's got that skill level and then having them teach it to you and then you start developing it, it just says a lot about people's dedication and who you associate with. And I really love that. But basically you've done this for a long time and you have developed your skills. And what I really like when we were talking is you're a no nonsense medium. You're look, it's about the evidence. I want to bring this through. And it's not about this mamsy-pamsy little, hey, here's the energy of this and that. It's about, here's the evidence, and I'm going to give it to you. And you also expect other mediums to do the same because you have an integrity level within what you present into the world. So now we'll highlight a little bit later. I know you also did some work with Arthur Findlay College, which is probably the most well-known for the psychic and mediumship and spirituality out there. And so I just kind of want to give the floor over to you to give us a little bit of a background. And like we talked, it's free flow. We both said, hey, is there a script? I'm like, no, let's chat. So I only want to preempt one thing, and that is I would really like your opinion throughout this little conversation we're having. I really want to know your opinion of what does happen when we transition, and to those that come back, and to those that transition and stay there. And why does it seem to be becoming more, I guess, more prevalent that people are able to start accessing the communications with their deceased loved ones or other deceased loved ones? So I'll let you kind of take it from there.
Wonderful. And just first of all, just to cover, because you mentioned Gordon Higginson, you know, as I said, yeah, all those wonderful, what people call them, gifts or abilities. But what made the difference with him, it was the power of his spirit and the presence. It could change the atmosphere in a room. You didn't know him, just meet him for a few minutes and he would touch your soul and make a difference. And this is what we seem to be losing in mediumship today. And I think we're losing the point sometimes of what we're trying to achieve through mediumship. So, you know, with mediumship, yes, I love through my mediumship to be able to give that evidence and that communication to those who are grieving. But there's a greater message beyond the purpose of mediumship. And that really, through that communication from people's loved ones, it's not about just supporting them through their pain and their grief. It's to bring an awakening within them. That communication actually touching their soul and awakening the reality of the spirit within them, for then each person to go on their own personal individual journey to find the reality for themselves. I always say, as a medium, I can't prove nothing. All I can do is do enough, hopefully, to touch the soul and bring that awakening for somebody to go on their own personal search to find that reality for themselves. So what we've got to realize is the soul is our reality. You know, the physical really is the illusion which is discarded one day, but that changes nothing about who and what we are. So the body is the vehicle of the soul, and the soul is the vehicle of the spirit. So the spirit has no shape or form. When people speak about spirit form, they're talking about seeing the etheric body, which is a replica of the physical body. So the spirit is the divine power, that divine essence, that is the creator of all life, whether that's you, me, the bird, the flower, and the tree. It's the same power that runs through all things. But what your soul does is individualize that power of the spirit that's within. The soul is also the vehicle of the mind and the higher mind, because when we're giving that communication from the spirit world, as I think you saw in that TV show on YouTube that I did for, I did an experiment there, and I was trying to get across to the host of the show, who was a skeptic about what I do, that we have to give enough information to show that there's another mind, another intelligence. So we have to accept there's more than one aspect of the mind. So we'll all accept the conscious mind, that we have to live this physical existence by. Right. I think most people accept the subconscious mind. Then what we have to look at then, that there's the higher consciousness, because mind survives physical death. So that higher consciousness has to be part of the soul. Right. So what I always say to people, because we're all soul, then, I smile when people say to me, oh, I've been told I'm psychic. I said, so what? You've got a soul, so everybody is psychic. So the word psychic comes from the Greek word soul. And because we're all spirit and part of that divine creative power of life, then that means every single one of us are able to have spiritual experiences. Because no one person is more important and greater than other to be denied to not to have a spiritual experience, or they're special, that they're the only ones who can have spiritual experiences. And if you look now, as we've entered this new millennium, we've left the materialistic age behind, and it was the beginning of the new spiritual age. And the spirit world said to me in 1999, they said, man has got to turn back to the spirit. I even wrote it in my book in the early 2000s. Man has got to turn back to the spirit. If he does not, then we are going to see a destruction of the physical things within this world. They said we will see the collapse of the financial institutions. We'll see the collapse of worldwide conglomerate businesses. We'll even see the collapse of religions. And these sort of things will keep on happening until man is forced to turn back to the spirit. So, and I believe living this physical world at the moment, and the many difficulties, the last 18 months has been one of them for everybody in one form or another. At the end, it's enforcing people or pushing them to take that next step, because looking for that answers and that searching for why we're experiencing what we're doing, what we're going through, what's the meaning, what's the person. So it is forcing people to go within and on that spiritual understanding and bringing that awakening within. So this is giving people then these varying and experiences that seem to be becoming more prominent, because it's the age where we've got to turn back to the spirit, because that's the reality. And as a medium, we're there to give that evidence. I won't say prove it, we can give enough evidence that the spirit is the reality and is also eternal. So if we can bring that reality to people and we can touch somebody's spirit on that search, we should bring a change to them for the better, that their life can never be the same. They will look at life totally differently. And, and making a realization that, we don't have to die to be in the spirit world. We're already in the spirit world. We don't have to die to be spirit. We're spirit here and now. And if we can find that reality, and our conscious minds can really truly grasp that concept that the spirit is eternal, that nothing can ever destroy it, okay, then we may find this life and the things we have to experience and deal with maybe not as great, and the negative effect that we allow them to have. Because if you think this earthly life, whether we have 1 year, whether we have 100 years, is like a grain of sand in the desert to your total existence of eternity. But it's difficult for our conscious mind to grasp that concept of eternity. Yeah. So, it would help us get things more into perspective. And in the past, I used to think my job as a medium when I first came into this was, take away the fear of death and dying, support them who couldn't cope with experience with the loss of death and dying. But the more and more I did this work, I realised that's not what my work's about. My work is about taking away the fear of
Oh,
life
I
and
love
living.
that. Taking away the fear. And that's what causes so much grief and pain for people, is the fear. And it's a lot of the unknown of what's going to happen to us afterwards, right? Or in the transition.
That's
So
right. I've been, fortunate. It's lovely just catching the end of your last speaker, on a couple of subjects she spoke about. Because I've had mystical experiences. There's two that's been very outstanding to me. One was I was only 13 years of age, and I was being brought up as a good Catholic boy, and I was at mass, and as normal, bored with being there and having to attend the mass.
oh, yeah.
And objectively, as I was kneeling there in the pews, I was looking at the altar, and the priest was standing there, and above the priest there was a large wooden cross with Jesus on. And so I'm just touching on something that you mentioned. And as I looked, it was a mystical experience, which I didn't understand at the time, that the priest disappeared, and I saw myself standing on the altar. And then as I looked, Jesus came alive on the cross, came off the cross, stood behind me, and walked into me and started speaking. So being a young boy, I thought, I'm going crazy. Then I started thinking, is it God telling me that he wants me to be a priest or whatever? But later on in my journey now, I realized it was the spirit world giving me that experience to tell me that one day I would speak with the voice of the spirit. But what I would like to say to people, I don't believe it was really Jesus giving me that, communicating with me. What the spirit world would do would use the symbology of that, because that's what my mind could understand.
Gotcha.
So it wouldn't have been Jesus himself, you understand. But they gave me that experience in that way, because being a Catholic boy, that's the way my mind could understand the concept. I can remember one lady also, when I was doing a lecture on helpers, guides, angels, archangels, and she said to me, I've got Archangel Raphael as my guide, and I says, no, you don't. And she got very angry with me, and because like I said, I've got my feet on the ground. Even today, I'm still skeptical of certain things. All right, and she got quite angry with me, and she says, I've seen Archangel Raphael. I said, I do not deny you your experience of having a vision. So I said to her, then you must be involved in healing work. And she says, yes. I said, it's the spirit world telling you and giving you that vision of that archangel, because you come under the power that that archangel represents.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? I love
So,
that.
so this is it with mystical experiences,
Yeah.
and I look at everything in a very logical way. I was even the other mediums used to call me the reluctant medium, because even when I could give contacts and information that people amaze people, I used to try and find some other explanation of where I could have possibly got it from. The second experience is touching on the near-death experiences. So again, mine was I didn't physically die or nearly die. It was through a mystical experience. I'd been sitting at home one afternoon, and I was just sending thoughts generally out to the spirit world. My father passed as a young man in a car accident, and I was sitting, I was just wondering, what was it like for my father to die the way he did? What's it like to die? And where is he now? And a couple of days later, it was an evening which I used to sit every once a week with a friend and colleague, where we would sit, not for any set purpose, where we would sit to create an atmosphere and a power for the spirit world to use in whatever way they wanted to give us an experience or a greater understanding of the spirit. And what happened was they actually then, I'd forgotten about this conversation. I wondered what on earth was happening to me. All of a sudden, I was in a car and my feet going onto the foot brakes, and they took me through the experience of what it was like for my father to die. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Right. So that was the beginning. So that's why I say to people, and I teach, because I often, most of the things I teach by my own experience.
Mhm.
The spirit will tell me not to read books, actually. They wanted to teach me by experience. And so I teach now that death itself is painless. Okay. Even if it's in a sudden passing, like a car accident, the spirit knows it's their time to leave. And the spirit moves out of the body just before death takes place.
You know,
It's still attached to the body, but it moves out. Okay. So that's why I know it's painless. Okay. Then what they took me through, it was like um, as if I was waiting and hanging about, still more conscious, not of the spirit world itself, okay, but um, but more to do with everything to do with the physical world, yeah, the people and everything, until my funeral had taken place.
Mm.
So that made me realise and understand then maybe why of certain cultures they like to cremate the body or dispose of the physical body within 24 hours.
Oh, interesting.
That's what it made me realise and understand. So
Huh.
then what happened after that was similar as our last speaker said. I then went down a tunnel of light, and as I went down that tunnel of light, till I came standing in this sort of brilliant light, which dazzled me. I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
And as I adjusted, my father was standing there as clear as day. And he'd got his sunglasses on. I thought, what on earth have you got your sunglasses on for? And then I remembered he always wore sunglasses 24/7. So that was fine. But then I heard a voice say to me, "We wish you to come with us." And I said, "I don't want to come with you." And I says, "I want to stay here with my father." And they said, "No, you've got to come with us." So I said, "Well, can my father come with us?" And they said, "No." And I said, "Why?" They said, "Where we want to take you, the light is too bright for him." So what that meant was they wanted, see, like there's different levels of consciousness within the spirit world.
Okay.
Okay, and there's not barriers to each level. It's there's many levels in a level. Okay,
Okay.
so what it was that the level of consciousness they wanted to take me to, my father wasn't ready to reach.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
so that taught me that I'm still in this physical existence, and I could reach a higher level than my father could, who was already in the spirit world. And what they took me to is a place I now would understand as the places, the hall of learning.
The Hall
And
of Learning. Okay.
the hall of, and I tell you what now, you can destroy any contact I've ever given anybody, any contact anybody's ever given me, but nobody will take away that experience.
Yeah.
I can just totally feel and feel it now in my soul. The experience, it was so wonderful. And what was interesting, they invited me to walk down this aisle, and there was this big chair with lions' heads, and the room was full of Oriental people. And this little girl came walking up to me, they asked me to sit in the chair, and my medium friend was able to watch what I was doing through his mediumistic ability. And I sat in the chair with my legs crossed, laid back, and he said, "Paul, don't sit there as if you own the place. Sit there with some respect." And then this little girl came up to me and put in front of me this jewel casket, and there was every jewel you could possibly think of. And as I went to take the whole box, and my colleague said, "Paul, don't be greedy. You can only choose one. You can't take the whole box." Now, if you'd have given me a physical box, I would have chosen anything but the one I chose.
Oh.
I would have chosen an emerald, a ruby, whatever, but I chose the pearl, which symbolizes wisdom and knowledge.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But when I left and time to come back, I can honestly tell you, I could have stayed. I didn't want to come back to the physical world. It was the feeling I just cannot put into words.
Yeah.
But on that note, after that experience, they gave me numerous experience to show me other levels of consciousness. And I don't want to scare people. But
Well, I got to tell you, Paul, somebody just put in the comments here, and look, we're pretty raw here. Somebody goes, there's levels to this shit. So yeah, I guess you're going to have to dive into it and tell us about them, because people are asking about it.
Yeah, I will. Okay, when I go on a little bit more what the spirit world's like, I'll explain that. But they took me into levels of consciousness that I hated. I didn't want to be there. I couldn't wait to get back.
Yeah.
So what you've got to realize, like when we first discard this physical body, we have the etheric body, which is the replica of the physical without the disease and the very old age. Yeah. And the next level of consciousness is what we call the etheric world, which is a replica of this world. So when we move into the spirit realms, even though like to us at this stage, or even as mediums, sometimes when you're communicating, it just seems very like your imagination. But that etheric world is as real and solid to our people in the spirit world, okay, as this world is to you and me. And I believe all of us, no matter how bad a person we think we've been or lived, or how spiritual and good we've been, we'll all first of all end up in the etheric world. Okay. So in that etheric world, though, there's many, in a way, levels, facets to it, you understand? So we've got to remember, though, even though it's as solid to them as this is to us, the spirit world is a world of mind and a world of thought. Gotcha. Right? So what our spirit world's going to be like for us will depend on what we've lived and expressed physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in this earthly life. So if you have lived a life that's been empty and barren and dark, then that's the sort of surroundings and condition you will create for yourself in the spirit world.
So that energy follows you?
Sorry?
That energy follows you there. Okay.
Yeah, because that's all you are. You're an energy.
Right.
Okay. That is still with individuality, because you've still got your soul, which gives you the individuality. Okay. So we are what we've lived. Our surroundings will be that what we've lived. Yeah, but not condemned to eternity. There will be then those higher minds, or those greater lights, will be there trying to touch and awaken us. Okay. Right? And then it may take somebody 1 year, may take somebody 1,000 years, because there's no such thing as time within the spirit world. But what's going to happen is, and there'll be no avoiding the truth, we will have to come to a point, to an awakening of the reality in its truth of that what we've been and what we've done. So then we're not condemned. So then we can still continue evolving in the spirit world. In our principles in spiritualism, we say the continuous existence of the human soul, eternal progress open to every human soul. So, there's no condemnation. There's nobody judging us. We will have, what we have is what we've created ourselves, not a punishment by anybody. And then we also, nobody condemning us to eternity. And I just want to get this across as I'm speaking about this. I actually believe in this physical expression. I don't actually always believe it's the deed, good or bad, that is measured. I believe it's the motive and the intent.
Oh.
Okay. So like I say, I've seen people do what you call spiritual gestures, but there's nothing spiritual about it at all.
Right. It's the intention behind it, right?
They've done it for show. They've done it to be noticed. Yeah. And the same with someone who may have done something you feel is wrong or bad. Yeah. You've got a father who's murdered a guy because he raped and physically assaulted his daughter. Is it even though it's wrong in one aspect, but is it as bad as we say because of the reasoning and the motive and the intent of why he did it? Can Can you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, you're making my
So
brain
it's
hurt a little
difficult.
bit with this.
That's it, because what we've got to live on, yes, we've got man-made laws, but then there's also the spiritual laws. And I don't think we fully understand, even me, what those spirituals will be for us, and what that entails when we are in the realms of the spirit world.
Right.
So once then we get to I believe we get to a stage where, as we evolve in the realms of the spirit world, the type of world or conditions we're in, the people we're with, will also change, okay, until then we get to a stage of expression of our soul and the spirit, where we no longer need individuality, shape, or form. So we become soul, still with the spirit, because the spirit's within the soul, still with mind, and still with the feelings and the emotions. So we've still got individuality, but without shape and form. Now, the next point I can't prove to you, but my understanding maybe is that, you see, some people say we're here to perfect the spirit. I disagree. Okay. If the spirit is that divine essence, if you want to use the word God, I don't mind using God. Some people don't like the word God, but if that divine power, that that divine essence, okay, then that perfection is already there.
Mhm.
What it's about, whether it's in this world or the next, is being able to live and express that perfection. Yeah. And again, in this world, whether that's in word, whether that's in thought, whether it's in deed, or whether it's in action. So you can have the worst person you can possibly class as evil or bad, but there is still that divine perfection that's there within.
I love
And I believe in all of us there is.
I
Okay.
love that.
And I think then once we reach that stage of that perfect expression, this is a possibility, not a fact. I wonder and question then that we then discard the soul, we then lose individuality, and we turn back to the source of that divine power of life and creation. I don't want to get too involved on reincarnation, okay? And there's many, there's you see what you've got to look at, and I wish people would realise this more, okay? And it's only normal because we live in a physical consciousness where everything's measured.
And
We
it's
want
linear.
one divine answer for everything.
Yeah.
With spiritual matters, I don't believe there's one divine answer for everything. Okay, I believe there are many facets and many possibilities. So, when I normally speak about reincarnation, I don't have time now. I'll speak about the different possibilities of what reincarnation could be.
Okay.
So I believe then when that power then is then reused to generate and create new life, is there some sort of memory and experience within that power of a previous life? Not that we're actually totally incarnating as that total soul in a new body. Yeah. Another aspect, I'll just touch on this. I know I might be going off a little bit, but I never prepare anything or have any order. I just go how I
I
feel
love it.
inspired to go. Okay. So this made me question. I hear people keep speaking about, oh, they're an old soul, new souls, group souls. So I thought, well, is there any truth in this? So I sat and I just thought about it. I can't say the spirit world gave me the answer. All right. It may just be from my own soul. So I thought, well, if you look at a human cell, when physical life is formed, you have just that one single cell that splits and divides into two. Then those two then split and multiply into four.
Yeah.
So I wondered whether at times then that what might happen is that when the soul gets to a certain experience, that it could split and divide into two souls. Because
Oh,
what made me think about that? So if you think that the population keeps increasing, so where do all the new souls come? For all that population, yes. Yeah, okay. So again, it could be part of reincarnation. It may not be the same whole soul that's reincarnated, but because it's created a new soul. There is past experience from that whole soul it was a part of
Yeah.
that comes. That's another aspect. So then when I looked at those like multiple souls dividing, then is that your group and family soul? So you've got experiences and a connection with that group of souls that's been created from that one soul. So it becomes your family soul, spiritual family soul.
I love that. And then in that theory, they could also be having different experiences. And that's
That's
why
right.
you're recalling them, or what they say, oh, well, I remember this past life or this other dimension. Is it just that experience of that group
Yeah,
soul?
it may not have been a total whole life. Yeah. So what I've just said now, I'm not teaching, please, anybody. I'm not teaching as fact. Okay. But this is how we grow. If you look at all the great philosophers of the past, one of my favorites, Aristotle, and that's why when I use the words, that's something divine,
Yeah.
right? Because that's the only wording Aristotle could find
Yeah.
to describe God. And if he can't find any other word, I can't. Um, you know, um, um, and then also again going back to what we said about this bringing this spiritual awakening. In
Right.
Aristotle's words, he said, "Do not exhort a man to man's thought, but encourage him to climb to the highest thing that is within him." That's
Ah,
something divine, and that's what we should be doing as mediums. Not becoming there, yes, when I do a demonstration, the bigger the audience, I love it, so it's great when I can demonstrate to 1,000, 1,500 people and everybody think I'm great and wonderful, but it's not about that. Yeah, yes, helping people, with their grief, but it's touching souls to bring awakening within them for our own reality. Your last speaker, I spoke about my own experiences. Some of our experiences you might poo-hoo or, might seem weird or off the wall.
yeah.
It's up to you for your own spiritual experience to find the way for you and bring that reality. And as I've said, because we're all spiritual beings, then we can all have spiritual experiences. So when I'm working with people, I don't profess everybody's going to be a medium in the formal sense of being able to give evidential contacts to people or do evidential demonstrations. I actually believe, there's a quality within everybody's soul, within that
Okay.
power. Okay. And, if I go back over 30 odd years and look at all the messages and help I've given people who've come for clients or individually who've come, the thousands and upon thousands, I realised everybody's problem in life is the same. The circumstances may be different,
Yeah.
but they're not living that what their soul needs to live.
Yeah.
And unless we discover and live that quality in whatever facet they may manifest, whether it's as a medium, their spiritual quality may be as to be a wonderful businessman. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Used in a spiritual way, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, it doesn't matter what it is. One's no greater or lesser. But if we could live that true essence and quality that's there, let me give you a little example. A young man came to me in Switzerland, the Italian part of Switzerland, and I said to him, I said, you're starting a new job soon in a small office, yes. And I said, but you're moving to the French part of Switzerland, yes. And I said, you're making a big mistake. And he said, oh, please don't say that. He says, my father set it all up for me. And I said, that's why it's a mistake. That's what your father wants for you. It's not
Ah,
what your soul needs to do. And I said, your soul and the quality that's there needs to be going into social welfare, working, helping people in society, maybe young people. And he said to me, I've often thought I'd like to do something like that. I said, don't you realise that's your soul
yeah.
telling you what it needs to do? So I said, you've got two choices now. Do what your father wants and be unhappy, or do what your soul wants and be happy. And this is the problem today. So, and this is, especially with a lot of our youngsters, okay, maybe this is why often a percentage of them are turned into drugs, drink, rock and roll, ever,
Yeah.
because they're searching for something, but religion's not answering their questions.
Yeah.
That they don't feel they want to fit in the normal conditions of what society expects of them, and they don't want to go down the set routine and expectations of what most parents want for the children. They want to live in a more individuality
Right.
way, yeah. Um, but they don't know how to go about it, and then they're going through this dissatisfaction, this emptiness, not understanding their purpose of existence or enjoy living in this life. But if they could reach people who could bring that awakening through people such as myself,
Yeah.
then they would then, yeah, they don't have to follow that conditioning of this physical condition and world. You know, we've come to the end of that era.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's about living what their spirit. And if we could reach these young people with that, you know,
Right.
even in my church, my older members used to go mad at me because I would allow, because I used to go out demonstrating. It wasn't done in those days, okay, in England anyway. I would go out demonstrating in nightclubs and everywhere, okay. And the spiritualist movement used to say, Paul, will you stop doing this? You know, you're one of our top mediums, and it's not really good, is it? You know, look for us, you demonstrating in nightclubs. I says, look, I said,
Well,
that,
you're just killing a few birds with one stone, right? You get your drinks, your dancing, and your
that's right.
mediumship by the way.
That's right. So I went to that club. The first month I did it, 20 youngsters came. By the end of the year, every month we'd have 200 youngsters every month.
Wow.
Okay, and they would never have walked into a spiritualist church.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I always said to the spirit world when I started this, I said, yes, I'll serve churches. I says, but I'm happy to stand on a street corner. I want to reach people
Yeah.
who have no understanding, touch new people. Most of my demonstrations are to audiences who've never been to a demonstration of
Yeah.
mediumship before. You know, uh, it's reaching new people and bringing that awakening. That's what mediumship is really all about.
Oh,
It's not about it becoming, oh, it's a quick way to feel somebody important, or oh, something. Oh, it's a quick way to earn a good book, charge silly fees. It's not about fame or fortune. You know,
right.
it's about bringing a change, touching people's souls and that reality. Yeah, bringing an awakening. And actually, if a medium does their job, if all mediums, including myself, and I'm not saying I do it all the time either, if we really did our job properly, we could actually make mediums redundant.
I love it. I love it.
Okay. Because if we brought that reality and awakening of that power of their spirit and help them to understand how to strengthen it and to be able to live their life not just by their conscious mind, but by that power and that inner voice, that intuition through that higher mind, we could do away with mediums, because that power then would move them, uphold them
I love that.
in
And
all that
so
they are, in all that they do.
that is what we're doing this here for today. And that's why I really appreciate you being here. You know, the if you will, tagline of this is awaken the medium within. So in the last, we have a few more minutes because we've got our next speaker. We're just going boom, 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 boom all day, getting a flavor for it. I want to do two things. I'd like you to can you give one simple daily or routine recipe or ritual that people can do to just tune in more, to start either increasing their intuition or their awakening or their mediumship skills? And then after that, I want to hear, how can people get a hold of you? We're already posting it in the chat, but I want to know what you're doing next and your
All right.
teaching and all of that.
Okay. First of all, I'm going to put you on the spot. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. What we spoke about earlier about giving something free to people, okay, is what I would really like to give, but we haven't got time
Okay.
now. So, you've got the contact details of all those who've attended today. So, what I'll do, I'll offer a free if you want to arrange with me.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Where I will then give them. I don't want to call it meditation as such. Some people would call it meditation, but I would give them an exercise to be able to take their mind, their conscious mind, out the way into their own soul to bring an awakening and try to heighten awakening of that power and their emotion, and then also that higher mind. That would be the first part, because a lot of you who are thinking doing the mediumistic journey or discovery, or have started it, too many people put the horse before the cart.
Yes, yes.
Okay, what you need to do is first of all understand your own soul.
Love it.
Okay? All right. So, because if I'm going to work psychically with you, how can I understand your soul if I don't understand my own? Let alone understand the soul I've got to work within the spirit world.
Mm-hmm.
And then what we've got to do, people think being all love and light and angelic and going in the silent with their spiritual music will help them develop their power. No, it doesn't. Okay. What we've got to do, we've got to go awaken our own power. And that power is weak or strong through the experiences that we've lived mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and physically. So, and this what I'm going to give is not just for those two mediums, it'll be to help do what I said about this inner voice and power to help you in your own lives as individuals. Right. So first of all, we've got to be able to go in our own soul and be able to, again, look at things that we're holding on to that we can't change, that's had a negative effect, and let them go. Okay. Look at things that maybe we don't like about ourselves and look to see if we can work on those and change them. With myself, there's one aspect of about me I don't like at all. And I've been working on it 35 years and still not succeeded yet. Okay. All right. So then there's sometimes there has to be, well, that's a part of me, even though I don't like it.
Yeah.
But an acceptance of it. But then also what we're not good at is embracing and accepting that which is good about ourselves.
I love that too.
It's not egotistical. And if we can focus also then on that is positive, that's within us, yeah, then that can then overpower the negative. Okay.
I love that, Paul. I love that. And so to summarize, I'm going to take that. You put me on the spot. So what I need to do now is to figure out how to collaborate. You're giving away a free introduction, maybe a free, I don't know. We'll talk about it after this, an hour thing.
Well, I'll do a 3-hour session for everybody where I'll explain it a little better and I'll actually take them through the exercise.
I love it. I will work with you on that. Everybody that's on here, we'll email that out to you in the post email for the seminar, along with the videos and where to find them all. And Paul, everyone can find you at mediumpauljacobs.com, correct?
Yes, they can, yeah. Or they go to my Facebook page. That's Paul Jacobs at Paul Medium. Okay, or Medium Paul. I can't quite remember. Also, just mention quickly because I know you've seen it. I don't know whether you saw both parts, part 1 and part 2. If they just go into YouTube and just put on the video of YouTube's and just put Medium Paul Jacobs, TV show.
Yes.
I think there's a lot in there for them to be able, that might help them as well.
I would agree. That is a great video. And I do recommend everyone go Google Paul Jacobs Medium. And he did a show. It was in the Netherlands, correct?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. You'll see so much more. I wish we had more time. The next time we do this, we'll do more time and we will dive in. And I want to collaborate with you more on it. I really do. Thank you for your time. And I know everyone, I'm seeing all the comments. You've got a lot of people saying, thank you, amazing gift. This is great. So Paul, you're one of a kind. Thank you.
Just quickly, Joanne, who's asked a question, the second part of the exercise I'm going to do will answer that question for her if she can join us. Okay.
Oh, perfect. So you know who you are. Thanks so much, Paul. You have a wonderful
day. Thank you, Paul.
My pleasure. Take care. Thanks for the invitation.
Dude, I love that guy.
Oh, wasn't that great?
That was awesome.
I just love it. Love it, love it, love it. Hey, thanks for watching that video. We hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please make sure you smash the subscribe button in the middle of this screen and then watch the next video for some more Masters, Mediums, Mystics from Energy Healthcare Connection YouTube channel.